For the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic,
which stands one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, good evening. Welcome to the May 17th meeting of the Town of Dover Planning Board. Today's meeting has been convened in accordance with the Governor's March 13, 2020 Executive Order 202.1, which dispenses certain provisions of the open meeting law to allow a municipal board to convene a meeting via video conferencing. In accordance with the executive order, the public has been provided with the ability to view the meeting, and a transcript will be provided at a later date. I confirm that this meeting has been duly noticed. We have fulfilled our legal notice requirements by posting notice at Town Hall, providing notice of the meeting to local news organizations, and posting notice to the town's website. All right, we have 4 public hearings this evening. I just want to briefly go over some of the rules regarding public hearings. Any member of the public wishing to make a comment or ask a question may do so when recognized by the chair. The chair will recognize the person. Rules state that people are limited to 3 minutes, but I'm willing to let people continue, provided they are limiting what they're saying to the subject matter of the public hearing. All remarks from members of the public shall be addressed to the board as a body and not to any individual board members. Sometimes questions are asked and the answers can be provided by our consultants or by the applicant when appropriate, but our consultants and applicants are under no obligation to answer a question at the time of the public hearing. Those questions can be answered at a later date. And the members of a majority of the planning board can overrule the chair at any time, as per Robert's Rules of Order. And with that, we'll get to the public hearings. Okay, I'll need a motion to open a public hearing for the City, the Country Store. Motion made by myself, seconded by...
So move.
Seconded by Member Morosky. All those in favor of opening the public hearing, have the clerk call the roll. The secretary call the roll.
Chairman Courtine.
Aye.
Member LaRope-Deer.
Aye.
Member Broski.
Aye.
Member Roman.
Aye.
Member Volano.
Aye.
Okay. The vote is 5-0 with 2 absences. This public hearing is now open. We'll start with the applicant giving us a brief synopsis of the project before opening up to the public to, again, make comments or ask questions. So, Mr. Masidi, I believe you're on.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so it's just to open a sporting goods store, hunting and fishing. A permit for that in Wingdale.
Okay. And just to give the public some more clarification, this is at 3623 Pleasant Ridge Road in Wingdale, New York. It is located in what some people would think is think of as the old post office. It's just across the railroad tracks and the river along Pleasant Ridge Road on the west side of both the railroad tracks and the river.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Masidi.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So at this time, if there are any members of the public who would like to make any comments or ask any questions, please do so at this time. All right. Seeing no members of the public looking to make comments or ask questions at this time, the planning board has the option to continue the public hearing or close the public hearing. So I'd like to hear from members of the planning board at this time as to what you'd like to do.
Is there any particular reason to continue it rather than close it?
Ramon, if no members of the public are interested in commenting or questioning at this time, I would be in favor of closing the public hearing.
I agree with you, Ryan.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So hearing what I've heard from the members, I'll make a motion to close this public hearing on the City Country Store. Motion again made by myself, seconded by
Second.
Seconded by member Ramon. All those in favor, please have the secretary call the roll.
Corteen,
Aye.
Member LaRope-Deer,
Aye.
Member Borowski,
Aye.
Member Roman,
Aye.
Member Volano.
Aye.
Okay, I have the vote as 5-0 with 2 absences to close this public hearing. This public hearing is now closed. We have a resolution to grant site plan and special use permit approval to be considered. So I'll read this resolution, and then if there is a motion and second, then we'll have a discussion amongst the members and the consultants. Okay, resolution to grant site plan and special use permit approval for the country store. Whereas the applicant, Nicholas Asidi, has submitted an application for site plan and special use permit approvals for a home occupation in order to utilize a portion of an existing structure as a country store, also known as the project, at property located at 3623 Pleasant Ridge Road, tax parcel number 7060-04-886098, also known as the property, in the HM zoning district and the floodplain and stream corridor overlay, also known as the SD districts. And whereas the project is depicted on a sketch received February 22nd, 2021, as amended by a sketch received on March 16th, 2021, collectively known as the sketch plan. And whereas pursuant to zoning law 145-41, a home occupation occupying more than 30% of the floor space of the primary dwelling unit is permitted with special use permit and site plan approval, but said home occupation cannot exceed 40% of the floor space of the primary dwelling unit. And whereas the applicant proposes to use 450 square feet or 40% of the floor area for the home occupation, and whereas on April 5th, 2021, the planning board determined that the project is a type 2 action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and no further review under the act is required. And whereas pursuant to section 239-M of the General Municipal Law, the project was referred to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development on April 5th, 2021, which responded that the project was a matter of local concern. And whereas a duly noticed public hearing was held on May 17, 2021, during a remote meeting held by the planning board in accordance with New York State Governor Cuomo's Executive Order 202.1 and the subsequent extensions thereof, during which all those who wished to speak were heard. Now therefore be resolved that the planning board determines pursuant to section 145-63A of the zoning law that the project will not violate any of the special use permit criteria applicable to major projects listed in zoning law 145-63B and will comply with the standards of the stream corridor overlay set forth in 145-14. Be it further resolved that the planning board hereby grants site plan and special use permit approval to the project as depicted on the sketch plan and authorizes the chair or his authorized designee to sign the sketch plan after compliance with the following conditions. 1, payment of all fees and escrow. And 2, a signed acknowledgement from the applicant that the project must comply with the standards applicable to home occupations listed in zoning law 145-41B, subsection 1, subsections A through H. Be it further resolved that pursuant to zoning law 145-41B, subsection 2, the operator of the project must obtain an annual operating permit from the code enforcement officer beginning in the second year of operation. Such operating permit shall be granted after the code enforcement officer inspects the premises and finds the home occupation to be in compliance with all conditions of this special permit approval. This resolution is being offered by myself, seconded by
Second.
Member Rahman. Okay, discussion? So I think we've heard about this project over a few meetings. We've had the public hearing, at which time no members of the public offered any comments or questions, and then we closed the public hearing. So I believe the resolution speaks for itself, but we'll go through each member of the planning board and the consultants, see if there's any further discussion warranted. So Member Roman?
I don't have any further comments or questions.
Okay, thank you, Member Roman. Member Morosky?
No additional comments at this time.
Thank you, Member Morosky. Member Villano?
No comments.
Thank you, Member Villano. Member LaRobediere?
No comments. Looks like a good project.
Okay, thank you, Member LaRobediere. We'll go through our consultants. Attorney Logan?
No comment.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Logan. Engineer Berger?
No comments.
Thank you, Engineer Berger. And Planner Werner?
I'll just note that we did hear back from the county planning on the GML 239M referral that went out after the last meeting, and they only had one comment, which was to if they could see the site plan in a more formal form. But as we know, the board had already waived the site plan requirement since there's really nothing changing on the property. Everything's going to be happening inside the building. There's no change to the parking. There's no change anywhere else on the site. So they were fine with that. We just made it clear that we're not accepting a formal site plan. The sketch plan that you noted in the resolution is the plan here. And the only other note I had is that we did discuss possibly the applicant maybe needing a variance for the size of the sign when the time comes, because the limit in the code is 3 square feet. Otherwise, I don't have any comments.
Okay. And that variance doesn't need to be considered at the time of this resolution, correct?
I don't believe so. Right, Patrick?
Right.
Can I ask a question on that? The variant.
Your project, you can go ahead.
Does that go before you, or I was told, I think someone told me it goes before a different board, or is?
Yes, it goes before the Zoning Board of Appeals. So when you're ready to get permits, if you have a sign that's going to be larger than the code requirement, you'll have to go through the zoning board to get that allowed.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Oh.
All right. So Planner Werner, anything further?
That's it. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Having heard from all the members and our consultants, at this time, I'll call the question, and all those in favor of a resolution to grant site plan special use permit approval for Mesiti the Country Store. The Secretary, please call the roll.
Member Cortine,
Aye.
Member LaRobediere,
Aye.
Member Morosky,
Aye.
Member Roman,
Aye.
Member Villano.
Aye.
Okay, the vote is 5-0 with 2 absences. Congratulations, sir.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we'll move on to our next public hearing, Gardner Dolan. So this is taking place at 10 Halls Corners Road, Dover Plains, New York, for a special permanent site plan. So I'll make a motion to open a public hearing for Gardner Dolan. Is there a second?
So move.
Okay, moved by myself, seconded by Member Morosky. All those in favor of opening public hearing for Gardner Dolan, say, if the secretary please call the roll.
Member King,
Aye.
Member LaRobier,
Aye.
Member Morosky,
Aye.
Member Roman,
I,
Member Valano.
Aye.
Okay, the vote is 5-0 with 2 absences. This public hearing is now open. Any member of the public wishing to make a comment or ask a question, will do so after we hear from the applicant and or their consultant. So whichever of you like to go first.
Sure. Good evening. For the record, I'm Brian Hildenbrand, representing Conley Engineering. And if I could do so, I'll share my screen, then walk you through the plan.
Thank you.
Okay. Can everyone see?
Yeah.
Okay. Just so a quick location, just is at the intersection of Hall's Corners and Chestnut Ridge Road, just south of the intersection. The property is just over 9 acres. Currently, there is an existing main house, a detached garage, a driveway in between that connects to Hall's Corners, an existing barn in the rear yard, and an on-site pond and stream. What we are proposing as part of this project is to convert the second story of the detached garage to a 1-bedroom apartment, which is an accessory apartment, which is why we need a special permit from the planning board. There will be no increase in the footprint of the building. They're just fitting out the existing space to a finished space. The only disturbance will be the construction of the septic system needed for the apartment and for a new water line to serve the apartment, which will be from the existing house, which will be across the driveway. Just as an update, we have a submission, 2 submissions into the health department to get the septic approved. We hope to get that shortly. And I believe that's the main overview. We have plenty of parking on site. We don't believe there's too many impacts, but we'll love to hear any feedback.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hildebrand. The applicant is also at liberty to speak at this time, if they so choose.
Hi, we're Abby Gardner and Patrick Dolan. Thank you, Brian. Thank you to the planning board. Just to add that we are finishing out this, the top of the garage just for family, for our daughter to have a space. We're not planning to do anything besides just have it as use for our family and friends.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so again, at this time, any members of the public wishing to make a comment, ask a question, please do so. Okay. Seeing no members of the public wishing to make a comment or ask a question, the public hearing for Gardner Dolan can be continued or closed. I'm of the opinion we could close this public hearing, but I'd like to hear some other thoughts from board members.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
Okay. With that, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for Gardner Dolan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by, I wasn't sure who made that second.
Valano.
Yep, I did.
Member Milano, second. Okay, all those in favor of closing the Gardner Dolan public hearing, Secretary, please call the roll.
Member Cortine,
Aye.
Member LaRobertier,
Aye.
Member Borowski,
Aye.
Member Roman,
Aye.
Member Polano.
Aye.
Okay, the vote is 5-0 with 2 absences. This public hearing is now closed. Okay, we have a resolution to grant site plan and special use permit approval for Gardner Dolan. I'll read the resolution, and then I'll offer the resolution, and then provide there's a second, we'll discuss it. So, a resolution to grant site plan and special use permit approval for Gardner Dolan. Whereas the applicant, Daniel, sorry, just 1 second here.
I think it has the name of the engineer,
Connolly.
Connolly,
Yeah,
as well as the applicant.
okay,
It's not a typo.
okay. So, that's what was throwing me off here. So the applicant is Abby Gardner, right?
That's right.
Okay, so I'm going to change that to a moment. Whereas the applicant Abby Gardner has submitted an application for site plan and special use permit approvals for construction of a 750 square foot accessory apartment in an existing garage, also known as a project, at property located at 10 Halls Corners Road, tax parcel number 6963-00-241118, also known as a property, in the RC zoning district in the Stream Corridor Overlay District. And whereas the project is depicted on a site plan entitled 10 Halls Corners Road Special Permit Plan, prepared by Connolly Engineering, PLLC, dated January 20, 2021, last revised March 10, 2021, and accessory apartment floor plans, undated, collectively known as the site plan. And whereas pursuant to 145-12C of the zoning law, one accessory apartment per single-family dwelling may be located in an accessory structure, provided the lot containing the accessory apartment contains the minimum acreage required by the dimensional table, and such accessory apartment shall not be counted towards permitted density. And whereas the property will contain 2 dwelling units, 1 single-family unit, and 1 accessory apartment, and whereas the minimum lot size required in the RC district is 5 acres, and the property is approximately 9.18 acres. And whereas on March 1, 2021, the planning board classified the project as a minor project under the zoning law, and whereas on April 5th, 2021, the planning board determined that the project is a type 2 action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and no further review under the act is required. And whereas pursuant to section 239-M of the General Municipal Law, the project was referred to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development on April 5th, 2021, which responded on April 20th, 2021, that the project was a matter of local concern. And whereas a duly noticed public hearing was held on May 17, 2021, during a remote meeting held by the planning board in accordance with the New York State Governor's Cuomo's Executive Order 202-1 and the subsequent extensions thereof, during which all those who wish to speak were heard. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board determines, pursuant to section 145-63A of the zoning law, that the project will not violate any of the special use permit criteria applicable to major projects listed in zoning law 145-63B, and will comply with the standards of the Stream Corridor Overlay set forth in 145-14. Be it further resolved that the planning board hereby grants site plan and special use permit approval to the project as depicted on the site plan, and authorizes the chair or his authorized designee to sign the site plan after compliance with the following conditions: 1, payment of all fees and escrow, and 2, Dutchess County Department of Behavioral and Community Health approval for the proposed septic system upgrades for the project. This resolution is being offered by myself, seconded by
Second.
Member Roman. All right, discussion. So we did the site walk for this project. They want to build an accessory apartment, and we had a public hearing which no member of the public wished to make comment or ask a question. So we'll go through each member of the planning board for any additional comment or question. Member Morosky?
No additional comments or questions, but I think we should close the public hearing.
We did that.
Oh, we did that. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. All right, great. Good job, guys.
Okay. Thank you, Member Morosky. Member Villano?
No comments.
Okay, thank you, Member Villano. Member Robitaille?
No comment.
Thank you, Member Robitaille. And Member Roman?
No comments, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Member Roman. Engineer Berger?
No comment.
All right, thank you, Engineer Berger. Planner Werner?
Oh, nothing to add at this time. Thanks.
Thank you, Planner Werner. And Attorney Logan?
No comment.
Okay. With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor of resolution to grant site plan and special use permit approval for Gardner Dolan? If the Secretary, please call the roll.
Member Cortine,
Aye.
Member Robitaille,
Aye.
Member Morosky,
Aye.
Member Roman,
Aye.
Member Milano.
Aye.
Okay, the vote is 5-0 with 2 absences. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone.
You're welcome. All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we'll move on now to public hearing for Dover 1 LLC. This is for 34 North Nelly Hill Road in Dover Plains, New York, for an erosion and sediment control permit. All right. I'll make a motion to open this public hearing. We'll hear from the consultant and/or applicant, and then we'll open up to comments and questions from any members of the public. So, motion to open public hearing made by myself, seconded by
Second.
seconded by Member Romano.
Tie.
Seconded by Member Milano. All those in favor of opening the public hearing, if the Secretary please call the roll.
Member Cortine,
Aye.
Member Robitaille,
Aye.
Member Morosky,
Aye.
Member Roman,
Aye.
Member Milano.
Aye.
All right, the vote is 5-0 with 2 absences. This public hearing is now open. We'll start with the consultant and/or applicant.
Hey, good evening again. Brian Hildenbrand for the record, Connolly Engineering. And again, I'll share my screen and walk the board through the project.
Thank you.
Okay, here's a location map of that 2 multifamily units existing on North Nelly Hill Road. Just kind of gives you an idea of where it's situated between Wing Ave and Brevy Drive. Here's a blow up the 2 existing buildings. Access is gained between the buildings with parking in the rear. An overview of what we're proposing is to eliminate the use of this existing pipe, this culvert pipe that traverses the property now. It currently carries an unnamed water course. There's been issues in the past with the pipe being underneath an existing septic system, clogging, failing, causing flooding issues upstream. So what we are proposing to do is to create a channel to pick up that unnamed water course. Beginning here, the channel will cross the property and daylight into the DEC water course, the Stone Church Brook, in this location. We've had a few iterations between the board and the town engineer. The latest revision to the plan has been in this area where there's concerns about the DEC stream, when that would flood, if water would actually backflow up the channel. To mitigate that, we're going to install a small piece of culvert pipe with a tide flex valve. It's called basically a one-way kind of a rubber valve that will allow water to flow the direction we want, but when it backs up during the smaller, like up to the 25-year storm, that valve will prohibit water from backflowing into the channel. Anything during the real large storms, the 50-year, 100-year, this whole area is within the floodplain, so there's not much we can do to mitigate that. Besides the excavation, I mean, I mentioned that having such a large cut in this property will provide some flood storage, but it's hard to say it'll totally prevent any flooding in the larger events. So that's, again, that's the overview. We are also picking up the existing drainage in the parking lot, collecting it, and then piping it to the channel just to formalize that system. So that's an overview. Open to any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hildebrand. Is the applicant interested and available to speak, or not? It's their prerogative.
I don't believe they're on.
Okay, that's perfectly fine. All right, so before we get to any members of the public, I do have a letter that was submitted, which I will read at this time. Just give me a moment. There we go. Okay. So it's titled regarding Town of Dover Drainage Plan, submitted by Cheryl A. Race, 49 North Nelly Hill, Dover Plains, New York, 12522. As a lifelong resident and homeowner of our town, I've grown up and have lived on North Nelly Hill at the same location. During these times, I've experienced water runoff problems for better than 40 to 50 years. When the dump and natural drainage areas on Route 22 were filled in and covered with sand and inadequate fill, that is when the water issue began and has worsened as the years have gone by. Whenever there was a water problem, nothing was ever done and the ball was always dropped. Our street and area are now rated as a floodplain, and that was unwarranted and unfair due to careless ground preparations by those to speed up sales and construction at the cost of us landowners and taxpayers. The plan for replacing the existing drainage on the proposed site is long overdue. However, attention to the whole picture needs to be considered. Our creek that once contained deep swimming holes and good water flow is on the surface and barely allows water to pass. It's all filled in with silt and debris, causing backups and erosion of the good areas. There is a barbed wire fence across the stream that is constantly filled with debris and hindering the water flow located under the creek tunnel and is not maintained by anyone. Someone should be responsible for its clean out. The bridge that the brook runs under on this street is about to fall in and is in serious disrepair, but I guess this is another matter, but it needs attention, and but it needs attention is in all capital letters. The stream needs immediate attention and consideration. Some years ago, Conservation gave the go-ahead for the dredging and nothing was done as usual. Water and sediment flow downward, so let's guess what the outcome for us will be if the water flow is greater and nothing is done to the stream. This next sentence is all in capital letters. Please give attention to the stream also. And then the final sentence reads, it needs to be cleaned and opened up to allow for adequate drainage. So again, that was Cheryl A. Race, 49 North Nelly Hill Road, Dover Plains, New York, 12522. So we received that, read it in for the record. And so at this time, I'll open up to members of the public who wish to make a comment or ask a question. Please just announce yourself.
Planning Board, Courtine, Chairman Courtine, this is Brian Kelly. Just a few questions on the drainage. Are they going to go from the Stone Church Brook and the Seven Wells Brook directly to the property line of Nina Kelly's? That's going to be all drainage ditch. There's going to be no pipe. All piping is going to be removed.
So leave it to the applicant's consultant or one of our consultants to answer the question. You want me to
respond?
If you'd like.
Okay. So will the pipe be removed entirely? No, we're only removing it where it'll be abandoned in place and then removed only where it's impacting the septic and the drainage.
Okay, but there's going to be, you're going to abandon the pipe, but the pipe is going to remain, but that drainage is going to be open all the way up through to the property line to the north.
It'll be when I'll zoom in. We're going to cut. We're going to cap the seal the end. I'm sorry. Of this.
Excuse me, Mr. Hildebrand, I believe you need to share your screen again.
Oh, sorry.
In case it's not being shared.
I can see it.
Oh, okay. I thought I was. Okay, sorry.
I saw it, but it went away now.
Okay. Is it back up?
Yep.
Okay.
It is. Thank you.
So we're going to seal the downstream end, brick it up. It's going to remain in place, and then during, like I said, in certain sections, sections are going to be removed where conflicts are and backfilled with gravel, and then the head wall will be bricked and parged up as well.
Okay. No, that's fine, because basically what I was going to say, if it was only going to be a partial drainage where some of the pipe is going to remain, it would have had to been able to be snaked out and water jetted so we could make sure that it was unplugged.
Yeah. This is Joe Berger. Brian, the entire the ditch that they're making is going to convey all the flow completely. We don't want any flow to go into that existing pipe. We want it blocked off so it's not used anymore. Okay. So we asked them to put the channel alongside to direct it in such a way that it will flow naturally. But our concern was with the backup, so it won't be 100% open. Toward the bottom, what they've done is put a small pipe with a small berm with what we call a tide flex valve, which will allow water from the upstream to flow through, but will not allow backup from the stream to back up past that point.
Okay. So
in a 25-year storm, you'll actually see water on the downhill side of that culvert higher than the water on the uphill side. Okay. These are pipes we use quite common when in the city of Poughkeepsie where we drain into the Hudson, and the storm sewers are 10 feet below the Hudson, so the Hudson doesn't back up into the city storm sewer, but it will push the water into the Hudson. So this stuff, these type of valves are quite common for this type of an event. Our concern was on the 5, 10, and 25-year storm, we don't want that water to find its way up into the north when it never got there before.
This will actually definitely take care of the problem of my mother's property on 18 North Nelly Hill, and I believe that drainage will go back to its normal route, and I don't think there'll be a problem once this is put in. When do you anticipate? July or August, when during drought weather or when it's drier?
Ideally, I mean, dry weather would certainly make the conversion over easier. But we do have some other permitting to deal with, so we're going to do it as soon as possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm happy with that. It's definitely going to help my mother's property drain, so we don't have a problem with that. Thank you for taking care of this issue.
Yeah, Brian, they need a DEC permit to connect to the brook at that entrance there. So
yeah, because it's a trout stream.
Yes. So they'll get it because it's needed, but they still have to go through the DEC, which is slower than normal due to the COVID time.
Okay. Well, as long as it's moving forward, we're happy.
Okay, anything further, Mr. Kelly?
No, that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so any other members of the public wish to make a comment or ask a question regarding the Dover One LLC? Please speak at this time. Okay, seeing no other members of the public looking to make comments or ask questions, I'd like to poll the board as to whether we should continue this public hearing or close this public hearing.
I have a question if I could ask. I realize that this dredging of the stream is beyond the scope of this project, but I'm just wondering if the engineers could comment as to whether or not any of Cheryl Race's concerns are going to be lessened by the use of this project.
The answer is it won't be lessened or worsened. It's actually just a bypass of the existing storm pipe. This is really to correct the flooding that's upstream of the site and really will not have any negative and I believe no positive effect on the stream itself. It's just sending water a different way around.
But is it, oh, okay. Well, it's going to, so nothing is going to change as far as her property is concerned?
No. The stream itself still needs to be dredged. That's a whole different conversation with DEC. Dredging a trout stream is highly unfavorable by DEC currently. So that's a whole different conversation that the town would have to have with DEC. That would be very, very difficult to get. But this project has no negative or positive effects as to the concerns of the DEC stream.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything further, Member Rovedier or any other members of the planning board? As to continuing or closing this public hearing?
I have some questions, but not related to the public hearing. Should we determine about whether or not we're closing the public hearing, and then we can talk about other questions?
I think that would be appropriate. We did receive a letter. We did have a member of the public speak at the public hearing. I don't know if we need to have any additional public comment beyond this public hearing. So I guess I'll make a motion to close the public hearing, and then we'll see where the vote goes. So I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by, was that Member Villano?
Yep.
Okay. Second by Member Villano. All those in favor of the closing the public hearing on Dover One LLC, as the secretary, please call the roll.
Member LaRope-Deer.
Aye.
Member Cortine.
Aye.
Member Morosky.
Aye.
Member Roman.
Aye.
Member Villano.
Aye.
Okay. The vote to close this public hearing is passed by a vote of 5-0 with 2 absences. This public hearing is now closed. Okay. I think what we'll do at this time, before proceeding to any resolution is we'll look to discuss this project further, and then we can consider the resolution if we believe it necessary. So I'll begin. I'm glad to see, I'm just trying to bring up my map here. I'm glad to see the inclusion of the tide flex valve. That was certainly a concern that I saw when we did our site walk, and also that about, then just the overall concern about water flowing in the wrong direction and potentially causing a problem that where there wasn't one, or just not really solving this problem. So I'm glad to see the inclusion of that valve, and I'm happy to hear from our engineer that works, with much more sophisticated systems that interact with the Hudson River. So I don't think it should be too much of an issue for something like the Stone Church Brook. But I want to hear what any other members wish to add, and then also I know we were waiting to hear back from the Metro North or the MTA. So I just didn't know if we had any clarification on that. Maybe after we go through the members, one of the consultants can help clarify anything regarding the Metro North or the MTA. So going through the members, we'll start with Member Bolano. Any comments or questions?
No comments.
Okay, thank you, Member Bolano. Member LaRobediere.
No, nothing further.
Thank you, Member LaRobediere. Member Roman.
Yes, I do have some questions. I'm just not quite understanding what happens with the tide flex. I understand that it prevents water from backing up northward, but then where is that water going?
So the way tide flex works is water from the upstream can still pass through a pressure. So that's why we use them in the Hudson River. You have water from that upstream will still pass through, but it will prevent water from coming back. It's a check valve. And the hydraulics within it allow it to pass in one direction only, meaning from upstream to downstream only. So even with the water, if there's higher water on the downstream side and water's coming down the ditch, it will still flow through and go into the water underneath. Very similar to the way storm sewers in the city of Poughkeepsie drain into the Hudson 10 feet below water, which by someone would say, how does the water go into the Hudson? It's because it's being pushed in through hydraulics. And these valves are one-way directional anyway, so they will work.
So it just will result in more water than normal going downstream.
No, the water keeps going down. We're not creating more water. This is all the water that has been going downstream through the 24-inch pipe, but backflowing, flooding upstream and just going downstream slower.
So it'll just all normally go downstream.
Yeah, when the 24-inch pipe worked properly, the water always went down. This 24-inch pipe that they have on that site has been plagued with inefficiencies and blockages in beaver dams for the past 10 years.
Okay.
So it hasn't been working properly, causing the flooding upstream. What we're basically having the applicant do is create a channel that won't get blocked up like a pipe and work the way the pipe did when it first got put in, allowing water from the north to flow down. There's no increase in water being created.
Okay. So when that pipe was originally put in, it was put in, it replaced an original stream path, is that right? And we're basically looking at recreating an open stream as opposed to using a pipe?
I wasn't there. We can't find the original mapping, but I would have to conclude there was a ditch there at one time because the pipe wasn't, Mother Nature didn't put it in. So someone put that in, filled the area so they could do a parking lot. So I said, the grades itself, if you look at how the grades probably worked, there was a swale or a ditch that went through there, draining naturally to the creek. And they discovered it with the pipe. They put a 24-inch pipe in to handle the capacity. And for some time it worked until it stopped working somewhere around 10 years ago, if not longer. I know of 10 years. Someone else could probably fill me in with more information that it was probably longer than 10 years. It's just, I know about 10 years.
And then my last question is that in one of our earlier meetings, there was some discussion about whether or not the property owner would have to put in a footbridge for the convenience of pedestrians to get over the water. And he objected to that idea. He didn't want non-residents coming through. And he said that for the most part, his residents were not using that. But I don't recall if there was any resolution about that. Was there a decision made that a footbridge is not necessary, or will there be one?
If I could step in, it may not even be relevant anymore for that, since our culvert there will have a earth passageway across the ditch.
Oh, so there will be the possibility of foot traffic.
People can walk across that,
Right.
because that's going to be an earth embankment.
There won't be a formal structure installed, but with enough willpower and motivation, they can cross over there. And then a little, if we're not condoning it, or but I guess it's an easier way across if need be.
Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Zoom out a little bit. There's another reason
All
why
right.
it wasn't
Thank you, Member Roman.
feasible.
We'll get to everyone else in due course. Just to make a note on the 26-page engineer's report that's dated May of 2021. If you look at the image on page 9, it has an aerial view of an unregulated water course from 1970. It appears to have been something that was dug out because it seems unnaturally straight from the northwest to the southeast, going into the Stone Church Brook. But then you can see where, following that, they must have piped it by 1980, because then you have a lot of work that's done on the site. So if anyone wants to look further at this, you can look at pages 9 and 10 of the engineer's report, which I believe was submitted by Mr. Hildebrand. Yes, from Penley. Okay. So, Member Roman, you're all set now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Member Morosky, any comments or questions?
No comments at this time.
Okay, thank you. And so I believe we've gone through all the members. So, Engineer Berger, anything further to add at this time?
Well, in my review and in discussion with the applicant, I would like to have a few additional things added to the plan, which were in my memo to the board, specifically some type of either a core log or sediment check dams, which is placed not only at the outlet where it's connecting to the creek, but along the creek at some point during construction. The purpose being that when you open up this much dirt, and before the grass can grow after you seed it, there will be sediment that will be traveling downstream. This is the proper way to control and catch that sediment before it goes into the creek. And so these would be, the simplest way would be core logs, which are nothing more than natural, 12 inches high, made of hay, wrapped in a cylindrical shape that would be placed along the bottom, so that as the silt is traveling downstream, it's caught by the core logs and held back so it doesn't drain into the creek. And there would be placed as needed to minimize until the ditch is got a nice grass cover to it. And that information placed on the approved site plan, so that when either Don Anderson or myself go out to inspect it, we have something to point to the contractor that what he should do. That's it.
All right. So some additional information you believe is warranted.
Yes, and that could be a simple note added to the plan for signature at that point in time. It doesn't need to be re-reviewed. It can be checked at that time.
Okay. Thank you, Engineer Berger. Attorney Logan, any comments or questions at this time?
We would just point out that because we are still awaiting comments from DEC regarding the applicant's application with them, we thought it might be prudent to put off a vote on this matter for a month, just in case DEC responds to them and in some way requests a change to the orientation of the project. We wouldn't want the applicant to have to come back to the planning board again. And Aaron earlier today pointed out that it would actually be somewhat economical for the applicant to address Joe Berger's concerns in the interim. So rather than having those edits be a condition on something we voted on tonight, they could be taken care of during the next month, and then we could vote at the next meeting.
All right. Thank you, Attorney Logan. Planner Werner, comments or questions?
Yeah, I'll just echo what Patrick said. You know, we did send this to DEC back on early April after the last meeting. Since they have a permit already going through them, I think it just makes sense to wait, see if they have comments that might affect this. It just seems like a better use of our time. We also sent it to the Metro North, but it was only for like just a courtesy. There's no permits being sought through them. It's just due to proximity to their bridge, which is, if you zoom down or scroll down to the southeast, where the stream goes underneath the tracks. We just thought they might want to see, but we haven't heard back. So I think we can just proceed without them. Maybe they'll respond in that period of time that DEC might respond. So maybe we'll see something there. And just on the footpath thing, we discussed at the last meeting that somebody would have to actually cross another stream. This stream meanders back north on this property and adjacent properties. So it didn't seem fair to have you know, a crossing here when there's another stream that you can't get past without putting something over it. So we decided to not require that at the last meeting.
Right. Yeah, my recollection was if people cross this, they're either left with crossing the stream again or trespassing on property that is not owned by Dover One LLC.
That's correct.
In some way, putting people in somewhat of a, you know, you either trespass on someone else's property or you get wet. So, yeah. So, anything further, Planner Werner?
No, that's it. Thanks.
Okay. So I'll let's have a brief discussion on the footpath. I mean, my opinion, just given either you have to trespass on someone else's property or you have to cross the stream yet again, I'm fine with not requiring any sort of footpath or however we want to word it being imposed on Dover One LLC for approval of this project. But I'd like to hear the opinion of the other planning board members. So, Member Rahman?
I don't have any objection to that.
Okay. Member Morosky?
I'm good with that too.
Thank you. Member Villano?
Same here. I'm good with that.
Okay. Member LaRobediere?
Yes, it's fine.
All right. Thank you. So I think that issue has been dropped. So I think, and so just to our consultants, do we have any sense of when DEC might get around to bothering to deal with this?
I mean, they can't build this without that permit to begin with. Either way, you know, I don't think we're holding them up if we don't approve it tonight. Joe said that they are taking longer than usual on these things. You know, we've had this referral to them since April 5th, I believe.
Right. But I mean, you know, this is clearly something important, and I believe something that needs to happen. I don't want it to be held up because of us. So there are a few additions that our engineer would like to see Mr. Hildebrand add to the plan. That is correct, right?
Correct.
Okay. So what I'll propose, yeah, go ahead, go ahead, Engineer Berger.
If the planning board feels this is urgent for not just this project but for residents upstream, and that we would like to see this done in a timely manner this year, as the town engineer and planning board engineer, I could contact the DEC and ask them to expedite their review on behalf of the town of Dover like they have for other town projects. Because this is just not, this project was started at the request of the building inspector for flooding problem caused upstream. This wasn't a development project, but it's more of a compliance with the town's request to solve a problem for our residents upstream.
Right.
But I would need probably a request from the planning board to ask me to do that on behalf of the town.
Okay, so request to the DEC and just providing some time and space for Mr. Hildebrand to update the site plan and permit. So here's what I propose. I'll make a motion that the planning board authorizes Engineer Berger to speak with the appropriate authorities at the DEC to express the planning board's sincere interest in having this project move forward post haste. And additionally, that the deadline for this project for the June 7th meeting be extended to Friday, May 28th. So Mr. Hildebrand and our engineer have sufficient time to have a agreement as to what the finalized plan should look like. Okay, so I've made that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Member Morosky. Discussion from any planning board members? Hearing no discussion. Anything from our consultants as to the wording? Is anything unclear? Is anything need to be
No comment.
added?
No further comment.
Okay, thank you. So hopefully someone wrote down what that motion was. With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion as I stated it, the secretary, please call the roll.
Member Cortine,
Aye.
Member LaRope-Deer,
Aye.
Member Morosky,
Aye.
Member Roman,
Aye.
Member Villano.
Aye.
Okay, the vote is 5-0 with 2 absences. Okay, so Mr. Hildebrand, I'd say at this time, I think you know what you need to do.
Yep.
Our engineer knows what he needs to do. And hopefully, at least from the planning board's perspective, we can have this all wrapped up. Well, at least from my perspective as the chair of the planning board, hopefully we can have this all wrapped up at our meeting on Monday, June 7th.
Okay, I appreciate it. Okay.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. All right, so give me a moment here. All right, we now have a public hearing for LWF LLC, Deer Pond. Is at 293 Dover Furnace Road. I'll make a motion to open this public hearing. There's a second.
Second.
Second by Member Roman. All those in favor of opening a public hearing for LWF LLC Deer Pond. Secretary, please call the roll.
Member Cortine,
Aye.
Member LaRope-Deer,
Aye.
Member Morosky,
Aye.
Member Roman,
Aye.
Member Villano.
Aye.
Okay, the vote is 5-0 with 2 absences. This public hearing is now open. We will allow members of the public to make comments and ask questions after we have heard from the applicants and or their consultant.
Good evening.
Yeah. Good evening. You just say your name.
I'm Don Capolino, and I'm the attorney for LWF LLC. Very briefly, I can share with you the documents that we have. First of all, this gives you an idea. Has that been? Can you see this screen now? Can you see that? I'm trying to share the screen. Did you have that?
No.
I do not see it.
Bear with me a second, please. I'm trying to share the screen. There we go. Okay, this is the, you can see this now?
Starting.
Okay, so this is the farm, the entire farm area. So just to give you an idea of where it's located, this is Dover Furnace Road along here. This is the parcel here, the 250-acre parcel that's affected here, and it's down in this section here where they're trying to just put in a farm. This is a close-up of the area of the where the pond will be located, and then this is the pond plan that has been modified to include some things that were discussed at the previous meeting.
Excuse me, Mr. Capolino. I'm having difficulty hearing you.
You're having difficulty hearing? I'm sorry.
Yes.
That's better now. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So this is the location of the deer pond. The deer pond, as was indicated, was to provide much needed watering source for the deer that are located within the property. We've shown the existing deer fence, approximately 10 feet high, surrounding the entire 1,200 acres. And this is where the land will be excavated. We've shown the birch trees that are being proposed. This 395 elliptical area is the location of the 1.75 acre approximately pond. This is the haul road where the material that is excavated will be hauled off the site and taken elsewhere. So this particular plan calls for just that topsoil storage around the edge of and the excavation will start at this point and work its way in until they reach the proper depth there. It's a farm use, and we have submitted an application to the DEC because they we're looking for a non-jurisdictional statement from determination from them. I've spoken to Ryan Leduc from who's in charge of non-land reclamation for the DEC. He said the matter's been submitted. After February 25th, we submitted it, and because of the delays, they haven't completed the determination. But I spoke to him on May 5th, and he said they would wait for the town to make its determination first, but he didn't see any issues as far as land reclamation was concerned, because this is, I think
Mr. Capolino, I cannot hear you.
We're losing your voice again.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Apologies. I don't know what's going on. But I spoke with Mr. Leduc, and Mr. Leduc indicated that this looked like it would qualify as an exempt parcel because it is in support of the farm project. So, and that's essentially where we are. I understand that because of you have a 239M submission that was made to the Dutchess County Planning Department. I understand from that you did receive a determination of that this is a matter of local concern. Is that correct?
Oh, I didn't. Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Okay. Great. All right. So, I mean, that's essentially where we are right now. They're just going to remove the soil and take it off site, and we will have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Capolino. And is there an applicant who would like to speak at this time, Mr. Capolino?
Well, I know that Jordan and Lindsay are here. I don't know if they have anything to add. They were there at
It's their prerogative. They can say something or not.
Yeah.
Sure. We would just like to express the benefits that come to the property from this farm, from this pond. So as John mentioned earlier, it's a deer farm, and the property has a lot of ephemeral streams on it, so they'll dry up during the dry season. So this permanent water source will benefit the animals greatly, and hopefully mitigate some disease concerns associated with epizootic hemorrhagic disease. And so there's a lot of benefit to this. That's one thing we'll add.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So at this time, any member of the public wishing to make a comment or ask a question regarding LWF LLC Deer Pond, please do so at this time. Okay. Not hearing any member of the public wishing to make a comment or question. Like to have a sense from the board whether we should continue this public hearing or close it.
I think it makes sense to close it.
Okay, Member Roman, does it make sense to close it? Any other further thoughts from members of the board? Any members of the board thinking that it should remain open? Or continue, rather? Okay, hearing none, I'll make a motion to close this public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Member Villano. All those in favor of closing the public hearing for LWF LLC Deer Pond, the Secretary, please call the roll.
Member Cortine.
Aye.
Member LaRobediere.
Aye.
Member Morosky.
Aye.
Member Roman.
Aye.
Member Villano.
Aye.
Okay, the vote is 5-0 with 2 absences. This public hearing is now closed. Okay, we'll just have a discussion, continued discussion from our previous meeting. We did have a site walk. There were, I'm trying to think, 5 members of the planning board that were there. It was good to see how the site looks, and again, put the drawings into perspective, you know, with what the ground conditions that are in place. There was a concern raised outside of the site walk about the amount of material that is being removed from the site, and then what happens to that material. So I know I had raised that question with the consultants. So the consultants, I know, had a bit of back and forth. So I'll ask for them to speak on this after we go through the planning board members. But there's concern of, is this seen as some way being soil mining? So I'll just read the definition that the town has for soil mining. Soil mining is use of land for the purpose of extracting and selling stone, sand, gravel, or other minerals as defined in section 23-2705 of the Environmental Conservation Law, not including the process of preparing land for construction or a structure for which a zoning permit has been issued. Okay, so that's something I think we need to have a discussion about. So we have a full record of this proposal. But that aside, I'd certainly like the idea of having a pond for the purposes of these deer, so that they have a place to drink when there's not that much rain, or summertime when it's naturally lower water table. So I'll continue with any comments or questions of planning board members. So start with member Louverdeer.
No, not until I hear the rest of the discussion.
All right. Thank you, member Louverdeer. Member Rahman.
No comments.
All right. Thank you, member Rahman. Member Morosky.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with the project because I haven't sat in on the last meeting, but based on what I'm seeing, it appears that a lot of some of the material is going to be kind of dammed up along the edge of the pond area, and then a lot of material is going to be removed from the property. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That appears to be correct.
And was there any discussion on what that dammed area or perimeter area might be seeded with in regards to its closeness to the pond? And is that going to be hydraulic soil? So maybe it needs to be seeded with something that's maybe a riparian type seed mix. Was that discussed?
No, only that it's intended to be seeded. Yes, if there are particular type of seeding that you would recommend, I'm sure that the applicant would be willing to do that.
Yeah, maybe we might.
So I think what Mr. Capolino said was if there's any type of seeding that anyone would recommend, they'd be willing to do that. Member Morosky, please continue.
Yes, Joe, maybe you and I could sit down because, I do a lot of this, from a landscaping standpoint, and I've worked along stream beds like this, and it always makes sense to seed it with a mix that has, that is adapted to this type of environment. Of course, it should be a native mix, and that might be better to hold the soil in place as it's growing and as the soil is hardening up in and around the newly excavated areas around this pond.
Right.
I agree.
I agree. We have no problem with that. I just want for a point of clarification, since you weren't here at the beginning, this is just going to be a dug hole in a low area. There's no stream in the area. So this is going to be groundwater that comes in and fills it. So it's got to go down to the water table.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, Donald, I understand that. It's just that, these excavated areas that are bare soil after a project like this is completed, I just strongly recommend that, and I could probably help with that, a type of a seed that is adapted to this environment. So we got a quicker germination and it just, it holds together, much more faster than we would if we seeded it with something that like I said, I wasn't on the sidewalk. I don't know if it's shady or if it's a sunny area, and that could be discussed, and then just the right seed mix put in place, just to make sure that it all grows and comes together, before it might erode away.
So, Member Morosky, it's an open field, and probably receive some shade late in the day just because of the ridge to the west of the parcel. So your concern is erosion into the pond, that from just rainwater runoff, that it might just erode into the base of the pond.
Right, and my my recommendation is putting in a seed mix that is adapted to that particular environment, so we get quicker germination, so there's less chance of any kind of soil erosion from either thunderstorms or bad nor'easters or whatever, before things are able to harden up and become stable.
Right. Okay.
Great.
Thank you. Could just, I guess, somewhat relevant to this, Mr. Capolino or the applicant, what is the timeline? Say you get approval at a certain date, this pond will take how long to be built out?
My understanding is that it will take several months minimum to complete all of the work. They're trying to get something in as quickly as possible. We've lost some valuable time. We want to get something in for the dry season if we can, and whether any of that's going to be available this particular summer or not, that's going to be a tough call. But they certainly want to do this quickly as possible.
They certainly want to do what? I'm sorry, you trailed off there at the end.
I'm sorry. They certainly want to do this as quickly as possible.
Certainly want to do this as quickly as possible. Okay, thank you, Mr. Capolino. Okay, Member Morosky, any further comments or questions at this time?
I think that makes sense. I mean, if they do the excavation in the summertime and it's ready for a fall planting in a perfect world, that would be great.
Okay, thank you, Member Morosky. And Member Villano, any comments or questions at this time?
No comments.
Okay, thank you, Member Villano. Okay, so Engineer Berger, you were on the site walk. If you'd like to go first.
Yeah, the site is perfect for a pond. It's a low area. They're digging down into the soil, so they're not and removing the soil so that they're down into the groundwater, and then lowering it such that the deer can then walk down to where the groundwater will be. So they're not increasing the area at all or diverting water around. Any runoff that would have flown down toward Dover Furnace Road would continue to do so, but be interrupted by the pond. At some time, the pond, if it even overflows, it will flow in the same direction that the area flows right now. So they're not increasing any area that would cause any problems, nor are they redirecting the flow from its natural shape. The material they're going to be stockpiling the topsoil around the pond as shown on their plan, and remove the additional material, 50,000 cubic yards approximately, off-site to the south. But the purpose of removing this soil is so they don't build up the area around it and make berms, but to keep the lawn and the meadow that we saw in its natural condition as it is right now, with the exception of the pond. So I agree with the Brian Skorlick of Soil Conservation that the proposal is it will not have any adverse effects, and as long as they do the proper erosion control during construction and proper seeding with the guidance of our planning board member, I'm sure the project will turn out very well.
Okay. Thank you, Engineer Berger. Next, we'll go to Planner Werner. You had shared language on definitions of the zoning, so this might be for both you and Attorney Logan.
Yeah.
What your thoughts are on the idea of the definition of soil mining?
So I only raised it because after the site walk, which I wasn't able to attend, Joe had mentioned that somebody on the applicant side had mentioned that material was going to be hauled across the street, across Dover Furnace Road, and then be used to make brick. So we were like, okay, does that mean it's soil mining? But if you look at the definition in the code which you read, since the purpose of the excavation is to build the pond, it's not in itself mining, it's an after effect of that. So it doesn't really meet the definition. So I don't think it's an issue. If it was a soil mining project, it wouldn't be allowed anyway here because this site is not in the soil mining overlay, which is actually across Dover Furnace Road from this location, is in the overlay area. So soil mining is not permitted on this site if it was just that, but it's, in this case, it's the leftover excavation that they're just hauling across the street. So I don't think it's an issue. Patrick, if you have anything to add, that was the main thing. We just wanted to look into that further to make sure what they were doing here wasn't meeting that definition. Doesn't seem to be.
I agree with everything. Oh, sorry. Would you like to?
No, please go ahead.
I agree with everything Aaron said. If we want, we can have the applicant confirm on the record that the primary purpose of this project is to provide the pond, not to excavate and then create brick from this site. But I think it's clear that this excavation is only happening because of the agricultural pond. So I agree with Aaron's analysis in that regard.
Okay. So, Mr. Capolino, the primary purpose of this application is, then fill in the blank, please.
Yeah, the primary purpose is to provide a pond for the deer. This is a deer park, a deer ranch, a deer farm. So that's what they're interested in. Jordan and Lindsay can attest. They're the farm managers. That's what they're doing. That's what this is all about.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Capolino. So I concur that with the reading the language of definition of soil mining, use of land for the purpose of extracting and selling stone, sand, gravel, or other minerals, that again, this is not the purpose of the project. It's just a byproduct of the project. So alternatively, then you just have 50,000 cubic yards of material that has to be just spread out somewhere. So,
Mr. Chairman,
again, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask the applicant to also add to the purpose of the pond, which maybe it was expressed during the site walk, which I think is important, that the deer have this disease caused by passing on between the deer because of the close proximity where they water at watering stations. Now having this pond will dilute or will minimize that. And I don't want to speak for the applicant. They were much more in detail than I could remember, but maybe for the record, to help the purpose of this pond, that could go on the record of the purpose of the pond for this disease.
I do remember that. So, Mr. Capolino or the applicant?
Yeah, I think Jordan and Lindsay are best suited to do this. This is their expertise. So if they would.
All right.
And or Lindsay.
Yes. So what we mentioned on the sidewalk was, like Jordan talked about, it's hemorrhagic disease, also known as the common name of blue tongue, and it's spread by midges that create their life cycle in stagnant water. And so when we have a lot of animals in the same area where these midges are in stagnant water, it spreads this disease, which is ultimate leads to fatality. And so having this in a place where it's access to groundwater, and especially where groundwater is consistently flowing in here, it one decreases the likelihood of midges having their life cycle here, and also allows us to spread or disperse our animals across the property, as well as just around this area. It's a large water source, so it decreases the likelihood of us having this disease everything else.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. All right. Any Planner Werner, anything further to add?
No, there's a type 2 action for SECRA. We already declared that, and then we got the county referral back. So no further comments from me. I think there's a resolution that's been prepared.
Yes, there is. And Attorney Logan, anything further?
No comment other than to say that if the board so wishes, we could add a condition based on the discussion tonight that the applicant shall seed the area adjacent to the pond with a seed mixture, the type of which will be approved by the planning board engineer. If that seems reasonable, Joe, do you think that language would be acceptable?
That's good. That's absolutely, yeah, that would be fine. And we would consult with Member Morowski on that and before we approve it. I agree.
And I'll send that mix over to you, Joe.
Yeah, you and I can talk about it. Absolutely.
Very good. Yep.
All right. Sorry, folks, just give me a minute here. My device is about to die. All right. I just had one more thing I wanted to bring up. Just with this being a body of standing water, does there need to be any concern of this being a breeding ground for mosquitoes or other insects? And then, if so, is there any sort of mitigation that needs to be included? I'm not sure who is best to answer that question.
Okay. I think the applicant mentioned that the benefit of having the groundwater feed this is that it doesn't allow the midges, which are causing the deer disease, to have their life cycle, which I guess could in turn be same applicable for mosquitoes and other insects. But I'll let them speak to that.
Yeah, that's correct. This water should be constantly flowing in from the bottom of the groundwater. I'm sure mosquitoes can still be there, but it's less likely. It's not a
Excuse me, Lindsay, I'm having trouble hearing you.
Little trouble here.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me better now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I was saying that it's kind of the same thing with the midges as far as mosquitoes, and this groundwater will constantly be coming up to the surface, which is going to fill that pond. So it should keep it from being stagnant, which should reduce any of like mosquitoes or other insects that breed in stagnant water areas.
Okay.
Yeah, I find that ponds like this, if they're maintained as well too along the edges, which they will because of the deer, will cut down on the problem with mosquitoes which occur along the edges of the pond. So I think with proper maintenance, which this farm has always been doing already, and they're building this for the deer, so I'm sure they're going to watch it. It will minimize the occurrence of some mosquitoes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. With that, hearing what the consultants said, are there any members of the planning board who have any further comments or questions? Member LaRobediere, you indicated you may have additional comments or questions?
No, my questions were answered by the discussion already. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Any other members of the planning board have any additional comments or questions at this time? All right, I'm just trying to find the resolution here. All right, so before I read this resolution, is there a suggested language for what should be added to the now therefore be it resolved?
Sure. we could add a number 4 to the list of conditions.
Number 4.
And it can say the applicant shall seed the area adjacent to the pond with a seed mixture, the quantity and type of which shall be approved by the planning board engineer.
All right, I'm going to need you to read that back to me.
No
20% slower. The applicant shall seed the area
adjacent to the pond
with
a seed mixture,
the
quantity and type of which shall be approved by the planning board engineer.
Planning board engineer. Okay. All right, thank you, Attorney Logan. All right, so at this time, seeing no further comments or questions of board members, we do have a resolution granting erosion and sediment control permit for LWF LLC ESC permit. So I'll read the resolution, and then if there's a second, we'll discuss. Resolution granting erosion and sediment control permit, LWF LLC ESC permit. Whereas the applicant, LWF LLC, has submitted an application for an erosion sediment control permit to allow the construction of an approximately 1.75 acre agricultural pond, also known as the project, located at 293 Dover Furnace Road, identified as tax parcel number 7061-11-094952, also known as the property, in the RC zoning district. And whereas the agricultural uses are permitted in the RC zoning district, and whereas the project is depicted on sketch plans provided under cover letter from Donald Capolino, Esquire, dated March 24, 2021, with an undated revision submitted on April 20, 2021, also known as the application materials. And whereas on April 19, 2021, the planning board determined that the project is a type 2 action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and no further review under the act is required. And whereas pursuant to section 239M of the General Municipal Law, the project was referred to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development on April 19, 2021, which responded on April 22nd, 2021, that the project was a matter of local concern. And whereas by letter dated May 12, 2021, the planning board engineer advised the planning board that the applicant's proposed performance guarantee of $14,450 is sufficient. And whereas a duly noticed public hearing was held on May 17, 2021, during a remote meeting held by the planning board in accordance with New York State Governor Cuomo's Executive Order 202.1, and the subsequent extensions thereof, during which all those who wished to speak were heard. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board hereby grants the applicant an erosion sediment control permit for disturbance as shown on and described in the application materials, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, submission of $1,000 to be placed into escrow to cover the cost of site inspections by the town engineer. 2, submission of a performance guarantee in the amount of $14,450 in form, substance, and matter of execution, satisfactory to the town board and town attorney. 3, the permit is valid for 1 year from the date of this resolution. 4, the applicant shall seed the area adjacent to the pond with a seed mixture, the quantity and type of which shall be approved by the planning board engineer. Be it further resolved that before the authorized official may issue a certificate of compliance for work completed in accordance with the erosion and sediment control permit, the planning board engineer shall provide the authorized official with a written statement indicating that all work authorized under the permit has been completed and is satisfactory. This resolution is being offered by myself, seconded by...
Second.
Seconded by member Roman. Discussion on the resolution. Member Roman, discussion?
No, I don't have any discussion.
All right. Member Morosky?
No discussion.
Thank you, Member Morosky. Member Villano?
No comments.
Thank you, Member Villano. Member Lobadir?
No comment.
Thank you. For myself, I'm glad we had the discussion regarding whether or not this is soil mining, just to have it clear within the record of the planning board minutes that it was considered by the planning board, and no, the planning board did not agree that this was in any way the primary purpose of this project was soil lining. Okay, with that all being said, seeing no further discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor of a resolution granting erosion and sediment control permit, LWF LLC ESC permit, the secretary please call the roll.
Member Courtine,
Aye.
Member LaRobotier,
Aye.
Member Morosky,
Aye.
Member Roman,
Aye.
Member Volano.
Aye.
Okay, resolution is adopted 5-0 with 2 absences. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay. So next under old business, we have Harlem Valley Homestead. Property is located at 147 Old Forge Road, Wingdale, New York, for lot line adjustment and site plan approvals. Okay, and I can see that we have consultants and applicants for the Harlem Valley Homestead coming on. So I'll let you take it away.
Good evening. My name is Kathleen Gallagher with Insight Engineering, Surveying, and Landscape Architecture. I'm joined tonight by the applicants, Mike Ormilio and Josh Vertel, as well as the attorney, Neil Alexander. The applicant is currently working towards a full resubmission to address the outstanding comments that were noted in the previous memos, as well as many of the comments that were discussed at the previous planning board meeting. Our intent tonight is really to focus on the parking discussion, specifically the comments that were made by the neighbors during the March site walk and at the last planning board meeting related to the northern parking lot. So I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
For further discussion. So we submitted during this planning board submission the master plan drawing set, both the site plan as well as the code compliance, the M3 that shows the calculations. And what we're showing on these plans is the removal of the northern parking lot. As you previously can recall, there was 21 spaces located on this northern parcel. This was the item that was in discussion with the neighbors. There's several neighbors located in that area. And our understanding is they took exception to this to be used for hospitality parking for attendees to the site. And one of the requests was to remove that space. The applicant takes the discussions with the neighbors very seriously. And as a result of those conversations, asked us to reconfigure some of the parking on site. So what we were able to do is we were able to reconfigure the farm core parking. What happened is that the eastern structures were able to move a little further east. And what that allowed us to do was to open up the existing parking bays to add a few more spaces within that area. We were also able to utilize the spaces in between some of the agricultural buildings, in which case we'll put employee parking within that area. What that allowed us to do was to actually relocate 17 spaces as compared to asking for an exemption for all 21 spaces that was to the north. Our original meeting space number was also calculated in 2018. Since then, there have been several revisions to the floor plans, both as a reflection of the operations of the site, as well as a reflection of updates that were requested based on SHPO. We've recalculated the meeting space in order to have our calculations be the most up to date. Our intent is still to request a provision by the planning board for the employee parking as it relates to shifts. This has always been included in our calculations. We take the total employees in the calculations, but because they're not all going to be there at the same time, they'll be there during shifts. We are asking for a provision for a reduction of those spaces. Based on those two reconfigurations, we were able to remove all those 21 parking spaces to the north and reconfigure it in the way that you see here on the plans. And that really concludes our review of the parking reconfiguration. I'm happy to take any comments related to this specific parking issue at this time.
Okay, thank you, Gallagher. I guess just two things. One, so no parking north. That's obviously very clear. There was also discussion of use of that field for events. If there's no parking, is there no use of the field for events?
You're talking for the event field to the north?
Yeah, correct.
That's not something we're addressing as part of this submission. Again, we are preparing a full resubmission for really all those outstanding items, of which case we can address that during that time.
Okay, so that was my second question. I thought I did hear you say at the beginning of full resubmission. So I just wanted to confirm that is what I heard. And so you're thinking of a timeline for this resubmission would be for this full resubmission be for when?
My understanding is the next submission date is June 3rd. So at the moment, that is our intent. Again, there's a lot of moving parts for discussions, other information that was requested of the applicant. So we'll be preparing for that submission June 3rd, but we'll keep the planning board up to date. For some reason, if we don't get all the information we need, we'll probably extend it, because again, we want to holistically be able to look at some of these outstanding items with as much information so that we can all have an informed discussion.
Okay, so you're looking to submit on or before June 3rd for the June 21st planning board meeting, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and if you can't meet
That's
that
the current
deadline, then
intent.
it'll be the, if you can't meet that deadline, then you'll meet the deadline for the meeting in July.
Correct.
Okay. All right, well, thank you, Ms. Gallagher. That's all I have for you at this time. We'll go through the members of the board. Member Morosky, any comments or questions at this time?
No comments or questions at this time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Member Roman, any comments or questions?
Would just comment that it's good to see that the applicant is responsive to the concerns of their neighbors and, have gone to the extent of addressing this appropriately. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Member Roman. Member LaRobediere, comments or questions at this time?
No additional comments.
Okay, thank you, Member LaRobediere. Member Villano?
No comments at this time.
Okay, thank you, Member Villano. And we'll go through our consultants. Attorney Logan?
No comment.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Logan. And Engineer Berger?
No comments at this time.
Okay, thank you. And Planner Werner?
A couple of questions and clarifications. So the plan for the employee parking hasn't changed really at all since first time we saw this application. So the code requires, and Ms. Gallagher can confirm this, but the code requires 79 spaces for employees, but since there's 45 on site at any one time, you're proposing to reduce it from 79 to 45 for employees. So you're asking for a reduction of 34 spaces still, correct?
Correct. And I can actually zoom in on these parking calculations as well. So yes, this is the 34 spaces that you're referencing.
So because there won't be any more than 45 employees at any one time on the site, they're going to be providing for 45 employee spaces instead of 79.
Correct.
So the planning board the applicant's requesting that the board waive the standard by 34 spaces to allow them to do this. So that's all part of the decision on this project when the time comes. Just wanted to make sure the board's aware of that because it is a waiver that they're technically requesting. Yeah, I don't have anything else at this point. I just wanted to know if there's an update on on responding to the DEC comments that we got back on species, and also DOT. Anything new on that?
Correct. We are not prepared to have that discussion at this time, only because, again, like I said, there are a lot of pieces of information that kind of need to come together. And we're currently preparing that to have just one large informed discussion when we have all those items for your review.
Okay, fair enough. Nothing else from me right now.
Okay, thank you, Planner Warner. With that, any members of the planning board have any further comments or questions? Having heard from our consultants, please speak at this time. Okay, well, thank you, Ms. Gallagher, and everyone else from Harlem Valley Homestead. We will look forward to your full resubmission.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Bye. Okay, so at this time, we have approval of the April 19, 2021 minutes. All right. Having looked over the minutes, does anyone have any comments or questions? Any additions, clarifications for the minutes?
If I can go first, I have some comments.
Sorry?
On page 2, in the first paragraph, about 3 or 4 sentences down, it says, so very simply, the will be excavated. And I think that that was perhaps something about a well being excavated. I'm not quite sure what that was about.
Which page?
Page 2 at the top. It's
okay.
Like the 4th sentence, it starts with, so very simply, the will be excavated. And then it says, Mr. Palumbo has assisted us in a lot of the design ditches.
Oh, okay.
And there is a in the original submission. So I think there was something seems a little garbled there. And followed by that, it mentions a letter from Blind Squirrel, which I think was supposed to be a person's name, Brian. I forgot the gentleman's last name.
Scorlick.
Yeah.
It's spelled incorrectly. I don't remember how it's supposed to be spelled, but it's not Skurlock.
And then just a couple lines down from there says, indicating it's well positioned because it is a natural ball. So I wasn't sure if that was
bowl. It should be bowl.
Bowl, a natural bowl. Okay.
Yeah.
And
okay.
then,
This might. I'm guessing this might be because from this meeting and probably the previous meeting, sometimes Mr. Capolino's mic cuts in and out, and the verbatim minutes are produced by software.
Yeah, that's what I was guessing also, but I was just not quite making sense out of all of it.
Okay. So I would suggest that we, the minutes don't have to be approved right here and now. There might be more minor edits that need to occur.
Yeah,
so,
there were a couple other things that I had seen as well.
Okay. So if you, having looked through this, if you could send an email next week or so to the planning board secretary, then adjustments can be made and we could just approve it at the next meeting. Thank you, Member Roman.
Thank you.
All right, so then we'll forego approving the minutes at this time. All right, our next scheduled meetings are June 7th and June 21st.
June 21st? I thought it was June 19th. Monday,
June 7th and Monday, June 21st.
I'm sorry, I was looking at something wrong on my calendar.
Okay. You might have been looking at July.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Okay.
The 7th and the 21st.
I'm not sure if it'll be the June 7th meeting or if it'll be the June 21st meeting, but the time for us to stop virtual meetings is coming. So we will need to work that out. I'll be in discussion with the town supervisor as to how we can best and safely fit the planning board members and our consultants and the public into the meeting space that we have. It may also need to include the space outside of the meeting room in the lobby of the town hall, but it's possible that we will have an in-person meeting on June 7th, and it is highly probable we will have an in-person meeting June 21st. So if there are any members of the planning board wish to discuss this further with me, all of you have my phone number and my email address. So seeing no further business before the planning board, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Motion seconded by?
Second.
Motion seconded by Member Villano. All those in favor of adjournment say aye.
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 Aye.